Welcome to Audiobook Reviews in 5. This is Jana, also known as Yana, and I want to thank you for listening to my podcast. Today I'm answering a few recent questions I've received from listeners. The first question is, can you please add ratings to your reviews? My answer to this question is that I don't add ratings because my reviews are essentially only for those audiobooks that I especially enjoy and appreciate. If you're a Goodreads user, you can assume that anything that I review would be a 4 or 5 stars out of 5. And that's because I've listened to so many titles that just aren't awesome. Now, I've thought about reviewing audiobooks on here that were maybe popular, but I didn't particularly enjoy them. But ultimately, I decided that I'd prefer to spend my time in preparation on the very best and my very favorites, and those audiobooks that I feel everyone, or at least quite a few of you, can enjoy and appreciate. The other reason I don't include ratings is that they're so subjective and they depend on listener interest. I'm not equally interested, of course, in every single subject, no matter how well written or well narrated an audiobook might be. If you're really curious to see my ratings, you can follow me on Goodreads under my first name. But please don't judge me if I give 1 or 2 stars to a book that you love. I promise it isn't personal. The second question is, how do you decide what to review or listen to? The answer to that is it varies quite a bit. I keep a running list of every title I'd love to review on Goodreads. I really don't anticipate getting to the bottom of that list in my lifetime. At this point, it's just too long. And there are so many great audiobooks and more published every single week. I aim to listen to between 1 to 2 audiobooks every week, and often the subject matter is provoked by my curiosity about a recent news story or an event. So think, for example, in recent news, some of the hot topics or the items people are really discussing and thinking more deeply about. For example, I deliberately set out to reframe my understanding of racism and what it means to be anti-racist after recent events made me question some of my long-held beliefs and assumptions. When I want to learn about a given topic, I try and find the most highly reviewed and recommended audiobooks on that topic, and then I read all the negative reviews to see where its weaknesses may lie. So sometimes the thing about negative reviews is that they flag an issue I know I'll have problems with, like poor narration performance. But other times, the negative review may simply be that the listener or the reader disagrees with the author's point of view, in which case that isn't necessarily a reason not to listen to a given title. Ultimately, there are some titles that I will read the hard copy of, but for the most part, I do try and stick with those available in audiobook format. Often my choices are based on the recommendations of friends or even other podcasters who interview guests, like Dr. Michael Osterholm, who was interviewed on the Joe Rogan podcast. The third question is, would you consider reviewing fiction audiobooks? Short answer to that is yes, I would consider it. But the challenge with reviewing fiction is it can seem even more subjective. So I mentioned earlier when I share a nonfiction audiobook review, I can verify or validate that yes, indeed, this book lived up to its claim that, it informed me about X subject or Y subject, and this is how it informed me, or this is how it relayed the topics. But with fiction, there's so much more room for stylistic interpretation. And there is where our taste comes in, right? Because often we all hold different tastes about what kind of fiction we like, even down to genre. And fiction serves so many purposes. We enjoy it for entertainment or distraction, diversion, even academic study, and the list goes on. And although I enjoy literary fiction and I also enjoy trashy thrillers, I don't necessarily evaluate them in the same way. There's definitely stylistic elements that don't necessarily have any relevance in nonfiction, although I can certainly appreciate it when I come across a nonfiction audiobook with strong style. And so, the other interesting thing to note is that when people turn to fiction for escape or to set a mood, They're looking for a deliberate departure from their particular reality. And the irony I found over time is that even though I pick up nonfiction books to learn about different subjects or recent events, in many ways, nonfiction has been transformative for me in shaping my beliefs or my assumptions about a given topic. In some ways, nonfiction has an incredibly powerful ability to change our minds and even change our moods and beliefs. So that's the interesting element about nonfiction that I don't think a lot of people expect when they pick it up. That's all for this bonus episode of Audiobook Reviews in 5. Thanks for listening. If you have a question or comment, feel free to send me a message via Anchor or message me on Twitter. I hope you'll subscribe to my podcast on your favorite platform, and I look forward to checking in with you all again soon. Please stay safe and be well.